There are a couple of things that I've noticed recently when browsing through the internet, and you know me, I'm a massive fan of ancient Rome, the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, heck, the freaking Roman Kingdom. You know what? The Roman prehistoric people that inhabited that area. The Latins, the precursors to the Latins, whatever it is. Why? Well, because it's part of my personal history of my side of the world, being a man brought up in the Mediterranean basin. With that being said, if there is one thing that annoys me is when people misrepresent or completely change the history of my side of the world for political reasons. So, look at this. There are a few interesting articles these days. For instance, this one here is History Guild, and we are told Cultural Diversity, the Making of Rome. Cultural diversity apparently is the making of Rome. And you'll be like, yeah, well, that's from 2021. No. We can keep going. Time tells us ancient Rome thrived when the empire welcomed immigrants. We should remember what happened when that changed. I don't know, man. This is going to make me feel like there is an ulterior motive here. And believe it or not, this is from 2020. But I have a feeling that for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's me, but I have a feeling that this is not really about ancient Rome now, is it? Let's continue. Wow, 2024 for those of you who are gonna be like, oh no, but maybe it's because it's 2020, but now it's surely not happening. 2024 Roman Empire times. The Empire of Diversity, or Diversity, I don't even know. Romans beyond Rome. Wow. Christina, you really caught me with that hook, with that title, with this AI. Oh, I freaking love it. Yeah, unity in diversity. The governance that shaped the road. Yeah, unity in diversity. I think it's quite obvious that I'm going to dismantle this. Right? Because I could keep opening tab after tab after tab. We could fill it as Mongol style with like so many tabs they become minuscule. You can't even tell when one starts and the other one ends. Literally utilizing all the 32 gigabytes of RAM that I've got on this beast of a computer. All the same. It's gonna be all the same, my friend. So how about we have a look at these three very quickly. And I show you that there is a little bit of a pattern in the modern historical discourse. For instance, let's have a look at this one. Look, this is, at least this doesn't look like AI. This looks like paint. It literally looks like paint and they did the filler thing, but hey, I'll take paint over AI. Cultural Diversity, the Making of Rome. Let's go. Alright, by Richard Shrub. Estimated reading time 5 minutes, which will feel like 5 centuries, and they should write it with a V. The Roman Empire was arguably the most successful empire in history, eclipsing even the British Empire. Ooh. Oh, we're not not starting strong, are we? We're not. I don't know why, but well, let's say that with the title, it's not like this was really oozing historical confidence and professionalism, anyways. But man, how can you even? How? Well, let's start by saying that the British Empire I'm a Roman Empire fanboy, okay? This is coming. The British Empire covered roughly 6 times more territory at its peak than the Roman Empire, covering 35.5 million square kilometers. What are they on about? Roman Empire, probably 5 million? So I would say this is probably at its peak. Yeah, about 5 million square kilometers, give or take, 1.9 million square miles for those who need that. In 117, do not say Common Era because I'm going to flip the table. In 117, Anno Domini Nostri, Jesu Christi, AD. How could you even say something like this is beyond me? It's beyond me. So already, let's say that my confidence when it comes to the level of preparation of this individual is not, it's not great. It's not great, Baron. Yeah, I hope it's well, thank you. Let's go. Even prior to AD 212 edict that all those who lived in the empire would be Roman citizens, there were many ways of achieving that citizenship. It's always a matter of citizenship. This is one of those areas where I strongly clashed with Dr. Miano from Histories of Antiquities. I can never remember the name of his channel. He used this a lot to be like, so it wasn't European, it wasn't white, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. We shouldn't even call it European. It's not. It's because there were people with citizenship. Oh my gosh. Service in the army and civil society, or simply living in a city that was officially decreed Roman. Now, I'm going to continue and finish the paragraph, but already, for a city to be officially decreed Roman, what do you think happened to that city and those people and those who resisted the war machine that Rome was? But hey, unity and diversity, am I right? It's all about, it was all rainbows and butterflies and flowers, pun intended. Rome absolutely loved everyone. It was the empire of love, and that's what Rome did. They would come to you, say that you are, I don't know, you're somewhere, whether it be Africa Proconsularis, Narborensis, Dacia, freaking, I don't know, Gaul, Gallia, Britannia, Germania Inferior, whichever. You go to these areas, the Romans, the legions were just a decoration, okay? Because they were pretty, they were colorful, but it was all about love. So they reach your Gallic establishment, you have your little fort, it's circular, you've got your little fort, and it's on top of a little hill. The Romans look at it and laugh, thinking that's your defense. And then, you know, you come out to speak. You're like, hello, Romans, how you doing? And they're like, oh, great, what a wonderful day, brother. Look, how about you? Would you like to become a citizen of our empire? And they're like, you know, two options. Either they say, yeah, cool, bro, and fine, splendid. You know, you just pay your taxes and everyone will love it. But if you don't feel like paying taxes, we totally understand. So, yeah, you'll take your time, and that's how it was. Or if they said, you know what, I think we got a good thing going here. We got our wheat. We could like to keep 100% of that. We have our people. We have a culture. Much respect, right? Much respect for you people in the Mediterranean, whatever. But for us, you know, thanks, but no thanks. And the Romans respected that. They were like, all right, boys, walk all the way back to Rome. They said no. Because it was about... So anyways, after they brutalized everyone, murdered everyone, chopped off limbs, dismembered people, stabbed everyone to death, took everything by force, doubled the taxes because you should have said yes the first time, you didn't. We're going to teach you a lesson that your descendants will know for the next 10 generations, so you make sure you do not rebel against the power of Rome. But hey, after all of that, they were inclusive because they're like, but if you want to reset the citizenship... All right, mad respect. It didn't matter what religion, ethnicity, or language you used. You were able to travel wherever you liked as a Roman citizen. You see, so yes, if you could afford it, but whatever. This is true. This is true. There is also because how could it not be true? How could it not be true? I'm going to be pedantic because today I'm on pedantic mode. How can it not be true? So what is it? Like the Roman Empire, once you become a province of the Roman Empire, you've got a few colonies around, a few fortifications, and they're like, all right, guys, unless you're white, don't you dare travel. Do whatever you want. Rebel, do any, but don't you travel on me. Of course, everyone could. Don't even, like, what are we talking about? Hey guys, do you believe in Jupiter? No? You can't travel. Like, what does that have to do with traveling? What does that have to do with traveling? Central to this was the language of administration and trade, Latin. Yes, so-called the language of the colonizers. With everyone from Britons to Syrians, from Germans to North Africans having the same lingua franca. Not by choice, I would like to underline. Not exactly by choice. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure those Germanic tribes would have loved not to have to deal with learning Romanum, Imperium, and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they didn't want to deal with that, but they had to. So the language became absorbed in their... What? So the language became absorbed in their languages. Those who speak French would recognize words in English, Spanish, and Italian, for example, all ultimate from the Pax Romana. Wonderful. Yes, true. This is well described in the History of English podcast, The Rise of Roman Latin, which is... we don't care. We want to know the other part. So the Pax Romana allowed a range of cultures to live side by side in relative harmony. Yeah, if they didn't rebel, if they bent a knee, if they agreed to subdue themselves to the all-powerful godlike being, at least according to the point of view of the Romans, Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus Augustus. Bend the knee. Give me your taxes. Do not even mention the word rebel. Say that you speak your allegiance to him, then you'll be fine. Then you can have all the harmony you want, and you can have all the harmony you want. How about that? How about that? Due to the decentralized governance system, there was a centralized government, but then they had local governors, of course. I'm not sure why they used this term. Peoples were allowed to worship their own gods, yet as long as they didn't say, but our gods are more important than your God, which is exactly what some of the early Christians said, which is why there were persecutions for it, because they refused to say, yeah, but Augustus is the greatest God. So there is that. Run their own localized taxation system and send the taxes to Rome. Have laws peculiar to their own regions and even speak their own languages under Rome. Yeah, sure. As long as you get us a few interpreters so we can understand each other. Sure. But Rome was still ultimately in control. See, I agree with this. That's exactly how it was. But it isn't that... Oh, wait. Roman nationalism, the death of the empire. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, all of those invading barbarians. It wasn't them, though. It wasn't the inner corruption of the state. It wasn't the rebellions within. No. It was those nationalists, those Roman citizens that were like glory to Rome. That's why. What a bunch of clowns. This is disgusting. I don't even care. Taking on Roman culture was a choice, not something foisted upon a people. These people live in fantasy land. These articles are written by literal babies. Yes. To be Roman conferred status, and this is what resulted in the uniformity in goods, hairstyles, architecture, plays, and even ideas across the empire. This light touch approach, okay, guys, to consider the Roman Empire one of the most brutal, expansionistic war machines in our history, to have a light touch approach. It's like I'm about to write about the Lord of the Rings at this point. Unbelievable. Resulting in far fewer rebellions. Apart from the fact that rebellions still happened. But yeah, the way they achieved fewer rebellions was to make an example of those who did rebel. For instance, what Julius Caesar, when the Gauls rebelled, and he had to spend time, resources, money, allocation, troops. Once he regained the village, what does he do? He chops the right hand off of every able-bodied male in the entire village. I would say they're not going to rebel after that. Do I think that's a nice thing to do? No, I think he's probably burning in hell because of it. Doesn't matter though, because that's not a light touch approach now, is it? What about the light touch approach that they had with Carthage when they razed it to the ground? The Britons, Celts, and Gauls fiercely resisted the Rome invasion, but after a generation were largely absorbed into a peaceful, economically successful Roman province. Right, so what this means is that not only the Romans annihilated you by force, when you didn't comply. They weren't effing around. I mean, think about all of the thousands of rebellious gladiators that were all crucified all the way through the Appian Way. It must have been like walking through that, apart from like the stench of death and the crows. But imagine taking that road at dusk. It must have felt like walking through the underworld. Like this cannot be anything but a living hell. Imagine that. But light touch approach, am I right? Anyways, the fact that the Romans make sure, yeah, so you are our enemy, right? But your kids are going to grow up to be Romans. They're going to speak Latin. They're going to learn that they can speak your own blah, blah, blah barbarian language, but they'll speak Latin because otherwise you have no economic growth. You want them to have a career? They better learn Latin. So they're going to speak Latin first language. And then they're going to be culturally as Roman as possible. By the third generation, what the empire has achieved is that those who were once their enemies are now part of the system. And if they're part of the system, if they're Romanized enough, they will never rebel. Now, sometimes this failed. For instance, when, the whole situation with what happened in the Teutoburg forest, of course, they thought they had Romanized enough. What's his name? Arminius. But apparently they didn't. That didn't work. But generally speaking, it did work. That's why they were so confident and they were so trustworthy. This guy's a Roman by now. It's not gonna betray us. We gave him everything. He's known the city life. What is he gonna like? He has no allegiance with these barbarians. Instead he did. But that's a strange situation, in fact. That's why the Romans were so surprised. And then they made them pay. They made them pay with Germanicus. Germanicus, why do you think it's called like that? Went back after a few years. And it's not that he went through like a bulldozer. That's what they did. But with the Germanic tribes, if they all united, that could have been difficult to achieve. So what they decided to do is that they put them one against each other. They started murdering each other. It's divide et impera. But hey, light touch, am I right? Trade of goods was one of the big advantages to being part of an empire. Archaeological digs in the UK don't care. Alright, so why is Roman nationalism? Hollywood loves to tell the tale of the barbarian hordes that it claims overran Rome and would ultimately destroy it. This is far from the case. No, it's not the only reason, but it's definitely part of it. In a lecture to Penn State University, you can see in the video below, Michael Kulikowski argued that Rome accidentally committed S-word. One of the greatest successes of Rome was in allowing diversity to exist in harmony, in trying to centralize power so the empire would fail. Yeah, so, I see now why when I played Civilization 7 recently, one of the policy screens, you get the policy screens in Civilization 7, I got a policy screen, and I'm like, my policy, I had to select the policies, and one of the policies was, diversity is the source of our strength. And I'm like, why am I reading Joe Biden in my Civilization 7 game as I'm playing with Augustus? It's because of this. It's because they have to push this. Diversity, one, I don't believe it's the source of our strength in any way, shape, or form. But even if it were the case, the Romans didn't believe it. The Romans did not believe in the modern sense of diversity. In fact, if you were honest about the way the Romans treated anyone who wasn't Roman, you would call them bigots. You would think that in comparison, even the most nationalistic far-right guy is a sheep. It's like a loving love is love guy with rainbow flags in comparison to some of the stuff the Romans did, and that's just the truth. Changing the truth because you want to push a political agenda is awful. Look, could the modern West learn from Rome? That's exactly okay. Usually they don't make it this obvious, though. Usually they tell you, Rome was all about inclusivity and diversity. Oh, wow. But they don't tell you, so we should do that today. This guy just went full in. This guy didn't even try. This guy didn't even try to hide it. Are we seeing a similar problem in the nationalism, populism in governments of today? Could populism and hatred of those who are different race, color, and religion or language be the force that destabilizes the Pax Americana today? What an absolute clown. Anyways, I'll give him this. The Romans were not racist. I always say this. Like, it's something that I love underlining also because it's funny. The Romans were not racist. They hated everyone equally. So, if you were Nordic, they freaking hated you. If you were African, they hated you. If you were from the Middle East, they freaking hated you. If you were from Britannia, blonde, hated you. Red hair, hated you. The only people that the Romans didn't hate were the Romans and the Greeks. End of story. They hated everyone else. Hey, but it wasn't racist, at least. You know, it wasn't even based on language. You could speak anything. It was just barbarian to them. In fact, even the term barbarian possibly comes from onomatopoeia, in the sense that it just sounds like nonsense to us. Like, it sounds like nonsense. And in fact, in the sources, the Romans make fun of those senators who are, like, from a modern perspective, cultured, in the sense that they could speak. Like, they actually learned a Germanic language. They learned to speak Celtic, Q. But from a point of view of a Roman, that's not being cultured. That's being weird. You want to be considered cultured? Learn Greek. Show me all your knowledge. You can easily switch between Latin and Greek. Easy. Piece of cake. Read the philosophers, and then you're cultured. But if you speak, even if you speak two different varieties, like you speak freaking Carthaginian and you speak Celtic, you're a laughingstock to the senators. They make fun of you. They're like, oh, you're so fluent in your barbarian language. Like, literally, that's how they write it. I'm paraphrasing it a little bit, but it's funny. And because they thought they were below them. Now, of course, we're generalizing. I am sure that there was somewhere a ancient Roman Latin from Latium. I'm sure that there was an ancient Roman fisherman who didn't care, right? He was like, oh, I don't know about all these politics. I don't care. I just want to fish. And so if it so happened that at the market, as he's trading in his port town, and then he starts trading with, I don't know, he starts trading with someone from modern day Middle East, or he starts trading with someone from North Africa, or he starts trading with someone from whatever, a Celtic town that now is part of the empire. And so maybe some people come around and he's like, hey, you look different. And he's like, yeah, we're Celts, we're Gauls. And like, really? Do you like sea bass, or do you guys eat sea bass over there? And the guys are like, oh, I don't know, man, last time I tried the red snapper, it was a killer. And maybe they were like, oh, cool, man, thank you, bro, appreciate, thanks, it should be 2 denarii, but for you I'll make it 1.5. It's fine because you're cool. Of course. But when we look at the elites, and when we look at the general idea of how the empire treated other cultures, they absolutely treated them as below them. In fact, legally, not culturally, legally, according to Roman law, if you're not a Roman citizen, because all of these people say, oh, you can become a citizen, guys. It's a beautiful thing of diversity and inclusion. You can be unity. Right, but if you're not a citizen, what are you? And the sources tell us legally you're half a beast. Half a beast. Does that sound like unity, inclusive, and love to you? Roman Empire times, let's see, the Empire of Diversity, Romans beyond Rome. Beyond the marble walls of the Eternal City, the Roman Empire thrived on its ability to weave diverse cultures into a unified whole. Yeah, Christina. Absolutely, I know exactly what you're doing. A possible representation of diversity of the Roman population during the empire inside a bustling street. Yeah. Right. That's very populous, by the way. That's a lot of people. The helmet is not historically accurate anyways. Let's see. A table of contents. It's a unity in diversity. The governments that shaped the Roman Empire. From local power to global empire, Rome's strategy of diversity and expansion. Are they going to put the word diversity on every single? Rome's provincial system, a model of tolerance and inclusion. Oh my gosh, these people make me want to puke. How? How can people do... And before you say it's a random article, Roman Empire Times, they are reflecting what people say in academia. So I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it. Tolerance and inclusion. They were murdering people. They were brutalizing. It is nauseating. Because this is false and professors are pushing this. A model of tolerance and inclusion is the Roman provincial system. So at this point, why do you have a problem with European colonialism? It must be also a model of tolerance and inclusion. I mean, they're pretty much doing the same thing, with the difference that we kind of expanded a bit more overseas. But yeah, that's fantastic. Forged in battle, how the Roman army shaped a diverse empire, man the fixation, Romanization through urbanization, how cities and citizenship strengthened an empire, because the source of our strength, right? Rome's inclusive empire, the evolution of citizenship across diverse people. They can't resist. They can't resist. This requires professional help. At this point, you need to see a psychologist. From resistance to integration, how citizenship unified Rome's diverse empire. From chains to citizenship, Rome's inclusive approach to freed slaves. Oh my gosh. What about Rome's non-inclusive aspect of having slaves in the first place? Because I thought that chattel slavery, for instance, is one of the gravest sins of our species. Now, I'm not going to reduce the weight of slavery in general. I think slavery is an awful thing. But you were the one who is saying Rome is so beautiful, tolerant, and inclusive. So how do you explain slavery after you have been pushing this idea, this white guilt that, oh, slavery, the white man. Tolerance and inclusion. Embracing diversity, the vast and inclusive reach of the Roman Empire. Unity in diversity, how the Roman Empire thrived across cultures and traditions. The Roman Empire's self-Romanization from diversity to uniformity. The decline of diversity, taxation, bureaucracy, and Christianity. Oh no, not Christianity. No, we had such a beautiful thing going with diversity, and then Christianity and taxation had to ruin everything. I mean, taxation has been there since probably the Aborigines, the very first people that couldn't even write. They still had taxes in some way, shape, or form, but whatever. You think I'm gonna go through this? Not a chance in heaven nor hell that I'm gonna do this. And look at their AI nonsense. A possible representation of a Roman legion information, yet nothing like this screams more tolerance than the spears they're gonna introduce you to the business end of if you don't submit. But hey, it's all about unbelievable. Unbelievable. What is this? Individuals could also attain citizenship through specific avenues, such as serving in the auxiliary unit of the Roman army and butchering people to death. From resistance to diverse, and who is this? A possible representation Roman. Of course, they went for Septimius Severus, because here's the thing, guys. I don't know what spears of peace. Yeah, look. You know what's funny? So they do this. Why? Why are they not showing Augustus? Because Augustus had light brown to blondish hair and blue eyes and white skin. So they're not going to show Augustus, but they choose to show Septimius Severus. Now, they need to kind of. I see a little trouble in paradise here, because lately what the university has been pushing is that Septimius Severus was a black man. So already you're going for brown man. We'll have to see. I get it, as long as he's not white, I guess, but you gotta decide. Because I've just debunked a few professors in England that were saying Septimius Severus was the most powerful black man alive in Rome. He led the empire. A black man, Septimius Severus, who was of Libyan origin, and I would like to underline, half his family is from Rome, Italian, and, because they never tell you that, okay, I gotta do it, so, this man, who was not black, but whatever, this man, here they're telling us, look at this brown man, Middle Eastern, absolutely not white, look at him, he embodies the diversity and inclusion and tolerance of Rome. One thing they don't tell you is that half his family was from Rome, and the other half was from Libya, and in fact, even the Libyan side possibly had originally Punic origins, at least on one side, which means that could be some Semitic in it. Maybe. It's not 100%, because when it comes to Carthage, its genetic origins were absolutely Semitic. But by the time it becomes, the Second Punic War, so by the time, I should say, it becomes Carthage officially, because the original Semitic core was what we usually refer to as the Phoenicians, right? But by the time we are at the end of the Second Punic War, in fact, from a genetic perspective, there would have been a minority, the actual Semitic core. Probably still was there, but I wouldn't say more than 10%. The remaining would have had the same genetic makeup as people in the Anatolian Peninsula and Greece, and possibly Sardinia. So kind of that type of genetic makeup. Whatever. But the other half is from Rome, and let me tell you this. The Roman ancestry goes all the way back to an original patrician family that was named with a nickname that meant redhead, right? Whatever. Thank you very much, Finkerband, for subscribing on Twitch. Very much appreciated. We got 5 to go, guys. 5 to go. Thank you for the support. So, already this brown man is not exactly, but let's, for sake of discussion, let's say that he did look like this. What is the point they're trying to make? All of these professors, all of these articles, they're trying to make, look, he's in power of Rome, and the Roman people accept him, the Roman authorities accept him, everybody loves him, even though he's brown. What does that tell you? It tells you that it's all about inclusivity. Too bad that when you read the history, you know how long his reign lasted? 1 year, after which they beheaded him. They removed the head, severing the neck. Does that sound like tolerance and inclusivity to you? But hey, what do I know? What I do know is massive thank to everyone who's doing this. We just passed the freaking goal, guys. Thank you so much. So I gotta say massive, of course, thank you to Finker. Thank you to Noble Rider for subscribing with Prime. Massively appreciated. And once again, Finkerban, 5. You did amazing, man. W in chat. Awesome support. Very much appreciated, guys. We're gonna explode on Twitch one of these days. I really appreciate. Thank you very much. So yeah, they cut his head off. So I'm not sure that that's exactly a great representation. While freed slaves held a second-class citizenship during their lifetime, their children were entitled to full Roman citizenship without any stigma attached. Right. Yeah. In fact, I would like to say this, when it comes to the slaves, because it's not like that they're pushing nonsense so we can see it, but when it comes to the slaves, the concept of being a slave under Rome, while still being awful, because they did, I don't know if you know this, but they did call their slaves talking tools. So you're a tool. The only difference between you and a hammer is that you talk. That's it. Not great. But one thing that we have to say is that Rome had laws that protected slaves up to a certain extent. So, if you, as the master, the owner, beat your slave to death, you're going to prison. So, it's interesting if you think about it, considering how ancient of a civilization this is. And a lot of the times when, like, of course, if a slave runs away, it's crazy because he would be charged with robbery. Why robbery? Because he's an object. So he's stealing himself from the owner. Inclusive Rome. So yeah, it was still awful. But there were laws, like you couldn't just decide, oh, I'm just gonna punish my slave whenever I want and mistreat them, because yeah, the empire would come after you. So at least there was a certain level of still recognition that, you know, you can discipline them, but don't overdo it because I'm sending you to prison. It's wrong. And the fact that they would think that is in fact quite advanced when compared to other civilizations where when you were a slave, you're a slave. So you have nothing. We can do whatever we want to you. So at least Rome had that. Another thing that Rome had, for instance, is laws to protect children, which I always thought is impressive. Also because we are failing to protect children these days. So I am actually appreciative. The Romans, it only, unfortunately, this only covers protection for citizen children. No protection for children of slaves, unfortunately. But when you were a citizen and you had a little girl, you would give her half a moon. It's called a lunula. And she would wear it as a necklace. And then if you had a little boy, you would give him the equivalent of a sun, like the moon for girls, the sun for boys. And these would be basically, not only they would be markers of this is a citizen, this is a child of a citizen. And not only it had a cultural and religious aspect to it, they believed that the gods would look favorably, like there was a whole belief system around it. But it also had a civic and legal function, meaning if you mess, when you see a child and they are wearing this, it means they're off limits. You don't touch them, you don't know anything. Because if you do, you cannot say in ignorance of the law, she had the lunula, you messed with her, will destroy you. So legally, so it was to discourage anything to happen to children, and I think that that's a beautiful law to have. But as you say, they are twisting everything. Like, even though now I'm presenting historical facts, I'm not even looking at the sources right now. It's just off of memory, because, after many years of looking into this with passion, interest and desire to know the truth, these things just come up in my mind, but it doesn't matter, because whoever wrote this is a propagandist. So the split second that I say this, they say anything against their message, they'll say, why do you ask that question? Why are you saying this? What are you trying to mean? Are you saying, and then they add whatever the heck they want to add to discredit and undermine my argument. And there is nothing you can do with these people. They are, if someone who goes the length of writing all of this, assuming it's not AI written, and then to attack a Christianization process deeply impacted the highly literate elite, and then there is the whole anti-Christian stuff. These are people that are, in my opinion, these people are gone. They are so brainwashed that all they care is the message, and they think that the, what's the word? There is an expression, justify the means. The end justifies the means. So they believe that by lying, because they have to know these are all lies. So they think that their lies are justified, and their complete reshape and rewriting of history is justified because they're doing it to own whoever they perceive to be the fascist or whatever the heck. No lie can be justified. And I'm not going to sit down and let them destroy and change completely the history of my people and my side of the world. And I'm going to be honest with you, even if it wasn't, even if this was all about the Gauls, or even if this was all about Britons, I would still go after them, because this is unacceptable. This is pure propaganda, the level of the Nazis, because that's what they did as well. They changed everything. They came up with stuff all the time, and here we are. So that was the first part. Very much appreciate. Did I miss much? No, not too much. We're almost done, actually. I'm going to look at one more article, and then we're going to play, my friend. Thank you very much, STFN9301, for subscribing with Prime. Very much appreciated. Today we are boiling, my friends. 133 subs. Thank you so much. We earned a hype chest. Let's open it, whatever it does. I don't know. I'm opening it. Hey, we got a camera. Lovely. Love that. So here we are. All right, so this was the part about Rome. Absolute nonsense as usual, but I'm going to save this one. I'm saving it because we'll see. I might actually go through the entire article and prepare a well-written and well-organized rebuttal. I'm considering it. It's going to take time because they have a lot of 12 subsections, but I might do it because at this point, I might become their absolute worst enemy, and why not? All right, so before we jump into Resident Evil, which we will in a second, I would like to cover now another topic that has been once again a situation that has happened in a while when it comes to the changing and rewriting of history that we fight vehemently on this platform.